over the past several lessons, we have taught about how to do like the rocket equation and calculating delta V and figuring out how to size a rocket. Well, in theory, you can do that, but that's like a back of the envelope type of calculation. So what we want to do today is we want to walk you through this tool that NASA has designed that will help you actually choose what type of a rocket you can really purchase to do what you want to do. So this is the website that basically helps you when you're designing a satellite mission, figure out what type of a rocket you need to purchase to put your satellite where you want it to go. I'm going to go through this website a little bit and just sort of show you some features of this website. But I would highly recommend that you go to this website and just play around and see what you can discover. This is not like proprietary information. It's not hidden information. It is totally available to anybody who wants to look at this. So go ahead, go to this website and play around. So we're going to start with just this vehicles list. And so you can see that NASA basically has a bunch of different launch vehicles that they use. So this shows the Antares, and that basically tells you how big the diameter of the rocket is, and it tells you something about how big the payload interface module is. So if you want to attach a satellite onto the top of the rocket, you need to know that type of information. And it tells you some other information about it. So you can click through and see the Falcon 9 also, and that tells you that it has a 5.2 meter fairing. So basically like it's 5 meters across. And so if you have a satellite that's bigger than 5 meters, it won't fit in the Falcon 9. But if you have something that's smaller than 5 meters, then it will fit. And it tells you, once again, some interesting things about the Falcon 9. Falcon Heavy tells you some stuff about Falcon Heavy, New Glenn, etc., etc. All right, Pegasus is the smallest one, so you can see that it's only 1.25 meters in diameter, and then the Vulcan is about the same size as a Falcon 9. So that is basically like the rockets that NASA uses right now to launch stuff into space. Like if you're going to build a satellite for NASA, then you could use one of these 6 rockets to launch into space. And you can't necessarily just say to NASA, I want to use this one, because NASA basically cares about money and everything. And so they're not, if you only want to launch 25 kilograms into space, you can't just say, I want to launch with a Falcon Heavy because I think that's cool. They're going to go through and they're going to figure out what is the most cost efficient way of actually doing this. So they'll run these numbers also. But you can see all of this cool information about the different rockets. So we're going to look then next at this performance query website, and we're going to go through some of these things. So this allows you basically to tell this website what type of an orbit you want to go into. So the default is LEO circular. So you want to go into a low Earth orbit, circular orbit. And then you want to specify what type of inclination you want. So 0 is just an equatorial inclination. You know about sun synchronous because we've talked about sun synchronous orbits. Polar is just over the pole. The International Space Station is around 51.6 degrees inclination. So you could go into an orbit with the International Space Station, or you could do something outside of that. So let's say that you want to go into a sun synchronous orbit. Then you enter the altitude that you'd like to go to. And there are a lot of satellites at, say, 750 kilometers altitude in sun synchronous orbit. So let's just do that, and let's see what satellites will allow us to take something into a sun-synchronous 750 kilometer low Earth orbit, circular orbit. All right, you click execute, and it tells you what rockets will actually do that. If you wanted to fly with a Pegasus, the Pegasus XL will be able to take 205 kilograms to that orbit. If you get this HAPS thing, which is basically like a little third stage, now you can take a total of 220 kilograms. So it lets you take 15 whole more kilograms. And then the Antares would allow you to take 3,335 kilograms, and a Falcon 9, basically, if you want to allow them to reuse the first stage, you can only take 7,815 kilograms to 750 kilometers sun synchronous orbit, or basically telling NASA, I want to completely use the first stage and not reuse it. So basically throw it away in essence. Then you could do 10,850 kilograms. So that's the idea here. So you could select like Pegasus, Antares, and let's go with the reusable Falcon 9. And then you click plot, and then it shows you what type of mass you can take to a sun synchronous orbit. All right, so this plot shows the Pegasus is down here, and all of the Pegasus basically will only allow you to take under, about 500 kilograms to 200 kilometers, all the way up to about 1,100 kilometers, and it just can't go any higher than 1,100 kilometers at sun synchronous. Then the Antares can take between like 2,000 up to 4,000 kilograms to varying altitudes. They put a max of 2,000 kilometers altitude because 2,000 kilometers altitude is considered the end of low Earth orbit. Above that, you're at medium Earth orbit. So this is designed for low Earth orbit. The Falcon 9 can take 9,000 kilograms up to 400 kilometers altitude, or what is that, around 4,700 kilograms up to 2,000 kilometers altitude. So this really tells you what the capabilities are of these three rockets. All right. So if you're planning a mission, but you're not entirely certain what altitude you want to go to, but you know roughly what your mass is, then this tells you, what rocket can take you to what altitudes. And NASA will often say, like, well, we will fund a Pegasus because a Pegasus only costs, $30 million, but we will not fund a Falcon 9 because a Falcon 9 is $50 million or something like that. And so that limits you dramatically. And so you need to know this information before you do any of your mission planning. All right, so if we do a new query, let's say that we want to instead go to, say, 28.5. I think that is the location of like Kennedy Space Center. So that's basically like launching almost eastward from Florida. And then we want to go to, 400 kilometers altitude. And then you can do execute. And then it tells you, once again, all of these things that you could use. Aha. And now we actually have even more rockets showing up. We can use the Vulcan, or we can use a New Glenn. And the New Glenn will allow you to take 36,000 kilograms up. That is pretty crazy. And once again, we can, click on different things. And so you could see like the New Glenn will allow you to take, like I said, around 36,000 kilograms to 400 kilometers altitude. And it is significantly more capable than a Falcon 9. And if you remember, the Falcon 9 was only able to take about 10,000 kilograms to sun synchronous orbit. But if you're only at 28 degrees, it can take now around 15,000 kilograms. And that is because with launching directly from Florida and wanting to only go into that inclination, then you can actually take advantage of the rotation rate of the Earth. But if you go into sun synchronous orbit, you're fighting the rotation rate of the Earth. And so you actually need a lot more delta V to go into sun synchronous orbit than you need for like this, launching from Kennedy Space Center and just staying at that inclination. that is basically like a demonstration of this website. You can go through and you can play with, different inclinations. Let's say we want to go to the International Space Station, which is at 51.6, an altitude of 400 kilometers, and that tells you, you could basically take a Falcon 9, you could get around 15,000 kilograms up to the International Space Station with a Falcon 9, which coincidentally is about how much a Dragon module weighs, around 15,000 kilograms. And so, it tells you what you can use, what rockets you can use. And that's basically all I wanted to do with this website. Just show you this website, and you can play around with it. You can do an elliptical orbit, and you can do what's called a high energy orbit also, but we're not going to actually talk about those at all. We'll just stick to the Leo circular. But you can go on to this website and play with it as much as you want. It's completely free. And you can make your own mission if you want, and then theorize like what rockets you will use and stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial on how to use this NASA provided website.